Can you believe it's now been 20 years since How I Met Your Mother came out? Yeah, I think people remember How I Met Your Mother. How I Met Your Mother. Da 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 da. How I Met Your Mother aired from September 19th, 2005 to March 31st, 2014. And 9 seasons and over 208 episodes. That is goddamn insane. What's more insane? Going to rank every episode of the show, which is something I've actually always wanted to do with the show. Honestly, I think I try to do the base. I go through each season and rank every episode. But I've always wanted to talk about the show because it's a show that I do generally love. To where while it might have happens like little issues here and there, it does have some really compelling characters. Like it pretty much was the predecessor to Friends. It was seen as basically the predecessor of Friends. Oh, it's a show that even has like similar characteristics and similar story elements to that season. Hell, some people even say that it's much better than Friends in certain areas. Then unfortunately it has probably one of the most infamous finales of all time. The show is not as fun. Hell, I think they try to bring it back with How I Met Your Father. Hell, they even try to bring back How I Met Your Father, which is I don't know if I should talk about that show honestly, but I'm just gonna stick with How I Met Your Mother in this one. Again, over 206 episodes, which is, insane. But for those who actually don't know what How I Met Your Mother is, unfortunately, it's a show that basically is telling How I Met Your Mother, where we see an older Ted Mosby, played by Josh Rander, who's telling to his kids, basically, it's like, hey, kids, this is How I Met Your Mother. Before I get to tell you how I met your mother, I'm going to tell you all the random stories about me and your Aunt Lily, your Aunt Robin, your Uncle Marshall, and Uncle Barney. And our friendship, and all the relationships I went through, all the terrible things I've done in my life, all the crazy back I've done to all my friends, how the different things and that, and then I'll tell you how I met your mother, and how this and that actually happens. And after about 9 years, to get comfy. That's like what he said, but that's pretty much it, honestly. And that's kind of like a running joke on the show, the fact that he does do that, honestly. But you got main character Ted Mosby, played by Josh Ranner. You got Jason Marshall, played by Jason Segel. Robin, played by Colby Smothers. Barney, played by Neil Patrick Harris. And Lily, played by Allison Hagen. This is actually after she did by Vampire Slayer. And it's also narrated by Bob Saget. But yeah, basically, this is going to be similar to how I structured my Drake and Josh episode ranking and my total drama episode ranking. So if you guys want to check those out, if you haven't already, though, I've actually had so much fun doing this, which is why I'm doing more of these episode rankings. I'm going to cover each episode in chronological order, and then at the end of the video, basically just give my general thoughts on the episode, and at the end of the season, basically give like a general ranking on every episode. And then I'll do one basically and then at the very end, I'll do basically an overall ranking on every episode. Or alternate the episodes. And for funnies, I'll do like a best characters. And for funnies, I'll also do like a best characters video and also a season ranking in general. So, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Again, sorry it's just on my phone right now, but that's really all I can do at the moment. So, but in the end, I hope you enjoyed my episode ranking on How I Met Your Mother. And now let's start with the first episode, The Hell Story. Again, the story basically tells the older Ted basically telling, hey kids, this is how I met your mother. And they're basically telling all different stories of what happened and all kind of like it's insane. They went up for 9 seasons. Like, no, it really is insane that the show went up for 9 seasons. But Ted basically is trying to find the love of his life. And basically, he tried to do that after seeing that Marshall and Lily got engaged to basically 2 of his like closest friends. Again, this proposal scene is hilarious. Like, Mark's like, "Will you marry me?" And then they're like, "Of course, you idiot!" Like, that thing cracked me up every time. And then he ends up meeting Robin, who basically is the love that Ted ends up having throughout the majority of the show, honestly. Despite the fact that they actually never end up getting together. Though again, that's a long way to go before we talk about what happens. Again, you know what I'm saying? If you know, you know. But basically, they go on dates, and then Monster Short ends up stealing the flute horn from her, and then the olive theory thing happened, which then comes up being a prominent thing in later seasons. And then get to find interaction on the characters, what you can expect from them. Again, And the first episode basically just does what a pilot episode should do, basically introduce the characters into a, well, at first they're not seem the most interesting, or maybe me feel like those rip-off of Friends characters, or aspects of Friends. Because the show basically, there's a reason why How Much Money is so compared to Friends. Because, well, some aspects feel like they rip off from Friends, which again, some episodes we'll definitely get into. We'll definitely get into that. And then, of course, we get the moment when they have a good day, and then Ted's like, I think I'm in love with you. Like, what? 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 Yeah, Ted basically feels he loves Bravo on that first date. Which does become a kind of a prominent thing of his characters that Ted falls in love way too fast sometimes. Like, like, kind of fast sometimes. And then, of course, Lisa, they not end up going the best. Yeah. But I don't really have much to say about the actual episode. I'm not sure how you'll be on the actual episode ranking, honestly. But this episode does what any pilot should do. Make you invest in the show, make you want to keep watching. Now we get to episode 2, Purple Giraffe, which basically continues the constant back and forth between Ted and Robin, honestly, where Ted tries to like fix the situation by throwing a party like every day to see if Robin will show up. And then Marshall again, though, he tries to buy a lawn paper and then gets distracted by so many things involving Ted and Lily. He also gets back between Marshall and Lily that shows like they're such a great couple together and why they love each other. And how you even see we even see like John Bernthal in this. Yeah, John Bernthal is appearing in this episode. So I would say, yes, yeah, we get some pretty hilarious moments. You get moments that show who Bonnie is as a person, which, yeah, he doesn't think that very questionable, probably wouldn't work in the modern day, but Patrick Harris always, like, there's the one thing I can definitely say about Hunter Mother is that, well, some of these characters do have their character issues at times, honestly, where it'd be like, characters act like terribly at times, and maybe it's like any consequences, or maybe unintentionally being manipulative. The performances always make these characters so much fun to watch. And that's what you want from a, and I think that is what you want from a sitcom, actually. That is what you want from a sitcom. It's for you to actually enjoy these characters. And Barney's always been my favorite. That's mostly because of Neil Patrick Harris's, and that's mostly because of Neil Patrick Harris's magnetic charisma, and he definitely plays that full force here. So, and on the upside, I don't really have too much to say about, but I will definitely put it about the first one. Now we get to Sweet Taste of Liberty, episode that basically the focus finds relationship between Ted and Barney, and also Lily and Robin as well, as we get to their friendships really, how we see the friendships really blossom and the back and forth between each other. Again, Barney wanted to take Ted onto like a living thing for a taste of liberty and everything, and Ted's like, why am I friends with Barney? Like, why are you trying to get me in trouble and everything? And that back and forth this episode is really fun and great to witness to, and even Lily and Robin's lifestyle plot and Marshall trying to go back and forth between like trying to solve both groups' problems is pretty hilarious. So yeah, another good episode. I would say this is definitely the best one so far. Again, sorry I don't have much to say about some of these episodes, but some I have mine more to the others, honestly, but I just haven't got with episode rankings. And then we get to Return of the Shirt, which, if I never that's my favorite episode so far. It's by this being one of the first showcases that Ted, yeah, like there's definitely a group of people. Some people think that Ted's probably one of the worst TV main characters of all time. That how selfish he is, how manipulative he can be at times, how terrible person he can be at times, and how terrible friend he can be. And also, I'm definitely not denying those claims, honestly. They're definitely, like I do like Ted, honestly, but I can definitely see why people think that. And this is, even like, early since especially, this is an episode that displays that, yeah, Ted can be kind of, What I did is, he basically tries to kind of flame, trying to call this girl named Natalie, and because he basically broke up with her on her birthday through a phone call or through a voicemail. And then everyone heard it while they were trying to plan a surprise for her. And then they get together, and then Ted's like, no fuck. And then he basically says a lot of powerful stuff, and then he ends up getting beaten up until a kid's like, you got beat up by a girl? Like, it's really the humor that really elevates this episode. And we also get some fun Bonnie and Robin moments where basically Bonnie dares Robin to some weird phrases, and there's also first showcases her career as like a news anchor and everything, and And then comes a prominent thing with her character going forward, but she ends up valuing her job more than relationships and everything. So, which again, it does become prominent comes to Robin as a character. So, yeah. But yeah, despite Ted's terrible actions, definitely best episode of the season so far. Okay, awesome. So another episode that I also don't have a whole lot to say about, but it's pretty much just good of the other episodes. Not sure I say it's the best one season so far, but it's another strong one basically just for Robin takes goes to a nightclub with Ted and Barney and they try to get in and a lot of crazy events happen, especially it's on the Hampton Barney's episode, which is pretty hilarious. And then Marshall and Lawyer try to become mature, which is I feel like it's not always happens to come, but they see characters try to become more mature and then they end up failing. So yeah. Overall, don't have much to say about the episode, but it's still a pretty good one. And then we get Slutty Pumpkin. But basically, Ted going to a St. Homily party to try to meet some girl that was in a slutty punk costume that he's in love with and ended up wearing the same costume that many years ago. That has a slutty punk costume. And he basically tries to still give a hope that he might see her again after losing her number and a candy wrapper. And Decade Age is actually pretty interesting, and though it's a little bit creepy, and you get some dynamics between him and Robin in this episode, and Robin's still like, hey, I don't know how to do all this couple stuff, honestly, and it's not really me and everything. And so yeah, so I'd say I probably put it above Return the Shirt honestly, but it's still a pretty good episode with some good character moments and some solid jokes. Matchmaker, however, yeah, even when I watched it the first time, I was never, even when I watched it the first time, I was never a fan of this episode, and it's, my opinion, it's probably why I say it's the first true bad episode of the show, honestly, where I don't think any of my jokes hit, honestly, I don't think any of it's substantial. It's basically Chad trying to go do a matchmaking service, and then apparently they have no match for him, apparently, like, they really be on Ted a lot, and then he doesn't make himself better by going after someone that was engaged and trying to force himself upon him, which is one of Ted's worst moments, honestly, but definitely not his worst moments, but we'll get into those. And overall, this episode that just wasn't fun to watch and a little bit creepy if you really think about it. So yeah, definitely going at the bottom of the ranking. But then we'll get back to another good episode with The Duel. And basically upon them, Blaze apartment got turned into a Chinese restaurant, which is a joke that lives rent free in my head. Like, the apartment, it turns out left the apartment for too long. The apartment ended up turning into a Chinese restaurant, which is saying what they apparently gave her notice 3 months ago, which is insane. She is moving into an apartment and has worried that they're going to end up phasing him out, and he's going to be the one that's going to end up leaving. Especially when Lily ends up changing stuff, honestly, and we get this hilarious sword fight between Lily and Marshall, and a lot of fun flashback moments between Marshall and Marshall when they first moved in and everything. And it basically leads to them accidentally stabbing Lily with a sword, which at that point that just makes me so hilarious that ends up happening. But now you also get some fun moments between Bonnie and Robin as well, elevating the great chemistry both characters end up having. So overall, definitely an episode that's going on top of the list so far. But now we get to another best great episode of the season, and that's Belly for Turkey. A really heartwarming Thanksgiving episode where you gotta see more Marshall's family, gonna see more stuff that's more hints out later on in the series, and a lot of fun back and forth between certain characters. Again, Marshall going through some really interesting changes of a relative she's pregnant and certain things that happen in this episode. And we get some one of the first true emotional moments about them being about baby talk and just their relationship in general. And then gets a fun moment between Ted and Barney and Robin where they go do some charity work and then they end up getting kicked out for thinking they're doing the right thing. And we got a fun little hint of foreshadowing in this episode where Ted meets a stripper named Tracy, and then he's like, Ted kids, that's how I met her. They're like, what? Just kidding. That's the first time he'll do that, honestly. But actually, the mother actually's name is Tracy, which, spoiler, that actually ends up happening. So, yeah. Good horror, good emotions, good humor, best episode of the season so far. And then we get to another probably one of the more iconic episodes of the show, and that is the pineapple incident. The pineapple incident. Which basically Ted wakes up the next morning very hungover and with some lot of crazy events happening, and goes to bed, and a pineapple. Which again, it's one of the most recurring jokes. It's like, what happened to the pineapple? Like, what's to do with the pineapple? And Marshall's like, do I want a pineapple? Damn it, you bought the pineapple! But this episode celebrates the best of the humor of this show, honestly. A lot of great back and forth between certain characters and how they piece it together and everything. Well, found one-liners here and there, just so much great humor and like that's one of the funniest episodes of the entire show. That alone puts the Pineapple Sins atop the list. Now we get to another iconic episode of the show, and that is the limo. Limo. Basically, Ted tries to go to different parties and to have an awesome New Year's Eve with his friends. And things go wrong, things go crazy. Ted and Robin have their first kiss in this episode. I don't know why I'm singing this, but I would put this episode above the last. Then we have the wedding, where Ted unintentionally breaks up a married couple that's about to get married, Stuart and Claudia, who are regular recurring characters on the show. And basically, he invites Robin to the wedding. He did not RSVP, and when he told that he did, and then and then he told Stuart like, "Hey, I want to bring a date," and then it leads to them breaking up, and then they got together. Then Robin gets a call, and then it's in the work, goes alone, but it turns out Ted actually did work alone, and we see the first 10 of Victoria. But yeah, putting this episode at the last. Really good story, really good emotions, and good humor. And then we get to drum roll, please. An episode that honestly I also don't really have a lot to say about. It's basically, Ted and meet Victoria at the wedding. They don't give us her names, but Ted really wants to find this girl because it seems like perfect. Can't get, apparently she wasn't away, but turns out she brought the cake at the wedding, and then they end up finding each other. It's first mention of Victoria, who's basically one of Ted's like better ex-girlfriends who they end up falling this season. They end up getting later on this show, which again we'll get to when we get there. We will get to when we get to it. We'll talk about that. And also, importantly, is also fun fact that apparently if this show actually ended season 1, Victoria actually would have been the mother, actually. Would have been this season, or even later season. That was kind of like the back of that Victoria was going to be the actual mother. And then Robin realizes that she might have feelings Ted. Again, probably going around a little half the list, but the episode still is good, just don't have much to say about. Then we get to Zip. Basically, but Spike realizes so Victoria had tried to have like the lovey-dovey moment, while Marshall and Lily basically on the bathroom, Lily has to use the bathroom, but it turns out there's one user for Marshall, and then also one enter back to Victoria and everything, and we also get some more for interaction between Bonnie and Robin. So yeah, another pretty good episode. And then we get to Gay Night. Another pretty memorable episode of the show, honestly. Victoria ends up getting well along with the gang and everything, and then we found out the little hint in terms of comes to Bonnie's past, to how Bonnie became who he is. And this will become more prominent in later seasons when we find like what he does for a living, which that'll definitely be a long time before we get to that episode. But basically, we end up finding a video, like a videotape from his ex-girlfriend Shannon, and then basically finds out like, Shannon, I miss you. And then we have people tell their background stories where we see Marshall basically like banning stuff from like Liz's classmates, Marshall's mom hearing Lily and Marshall having sex the whole time, Victoria having a little share embarrassing moments, and Robin being Robin, and then Ted revealing to Victoria that Robin was dead, and then he apparently drew up on her carpet one day. And apparently him saying Vomitor 93 is now no longer relevant. But yeah, gets the interaction between on the group, honestly, and got to see a little hint on who Bonnie is. Because obviously we didn't get much on before this, but now he actually starts to get a little more of the backstory on who Bonnie is as a character. And how he can make the cool, wild person that he ends up becoming. But overall, great episode. Definitely going high on the list. Now we have Cupcake. Basically, an episode that continues on the back and forth between Ted and Victoria. And basically, Victoria gets offered a baking scholarship in Germany. And at first, Ted was like, I want you to go. And Victoria's like, I'm going to stay. And then at this relation, Ted actually wants her to stay, and that Victoria wants to go. And Victoria ends up going, which starts the whole long distance relation. Yeah. Which leads to some fun and actually touching moments here and there, and it gets to the part where basically Layla ends up ruining a running dress, and then Marshall ends up taking an internship at Barney's workplace, and it just leads to a lot of interesting dilemmas, honestly. So yeah, well, not the most memorable episode in the world. It's still a pretty fun episode with some pretty fun moments. Not sure how high it's going to make on the actual ranking, but it's still a pretty solid one. Life among the girls, you see basically Marshall actually accepting his job. I feel like he's not like owning his own values to try to fit with people, which Lily's not really happy about. And you get some fun banter between both those characters, and you get the time where basically they end up singing "Don't Go Breaking My Heart," which at the moment that just makes me smile, and then kind of still struggling with the whole long distance relationship. Which leads to some stuff happening and ending with basically Robin calling Ted, which leads literally into the next episode. Overall, another good one. Sorry, I don't have much to say about some of these episodes, but I think I'm drawing 200 episodes here, so some I might say more than others, but don't worry, this is still a pretty solid one. Now we get to Nothing Good Happens After 2 a.m., which is also one that's always on the show saying that nothing good ever happens at 2 a.m., and to be honest, they're not really wrong on that. As basically Ted goes like really back and forth on, do I want Robin or do I want Victoria? And then Robin going through a lot of emotional stress in this episode, a lot of bunch of stuff, and then trying to call Ted, and then Ted ends up cheating on her, Victoria, trying to sign that he was going to break up with her, and then he lies about her saying that he already broken up with her, which leads to a lot of emotional back and forth, honestly, especially Victoria basically kind of trying to guilt trip Ted. Like, yeah, this is definitely one of the worst things Ted's ever done in the show, and I'm sure it's not the last terrible thing he's done on this show, which, again, we'll get to that when we get to that. But yeah, boy, do you get some good humorous moments here and there. The emotion really is little, like in terms of the acting, and then basically Robin ends up finding out by not having her phone, and then Robin's like, "It's your girlfriend, just call it." And he basically like broke a lot of hearts, and then he ends up breaking up with Victoria. Spoiler: it's actually not the last time we're actually will see Victoria, but yeah, it's really emotional for sure. So yeah, it's definitely going to have on the list. And I have Mary the Paralegal, which has always been an episode I've always come back to fondly. Like, it basically deals with the aftermath of what happens. You get some fun back and forth, like, some fun, like, telepath conversational moments, especially with Lily and Marshall, and a lot of just fun aspects to it. And basically, Ted and Robin trying to deal with the aftermath of what happens in that last episode. And then you get some really emotional back and forth, and then Ted basically trying to bring a date to kind of make a job, but in reality he actually likes Mary the Paralegal, who's a paralegal that lives in Barney's building, though he says she's a hooker. Then turns out she's not a paralegal, and then she's a hooker, and apparently she has no idea Ted is a hooker, so after like Robin did win her award, basically he ends up kind of screwing himself up, honestly, by calling her a hooker, which what Barney's terrible on, because this is Barney, but I don't know why, you just can't help but laugh. Like, this is definitely one of the funniest episodes of the season for sure. So yeah, I'm probably going below the last episode, but the last episode had a little more emotion, but overall, definitely a hilarious episode. We get more cool down last two with Best Prom Ever, in which basically, still see Ted and Robin still trying to be friends, but you get a lot of shenanigans. Basically, Robin ends up fucking Betty, who had to get married a lot earlier than expected, and they're basically trying to hire a band but they want to hear them play their song. No, the intent of playing is at a high school prom. And the shenanigans that ensue that is hilarious. You get some heartwarming moments. You can tell there are some moments where Lily's just kind of downing a little bit. You wonder why, which you find in the next couple episodes, which, oh man, we'll get to those. But overall, another pretty solid episode. Now we get to the last two episodes. First up, we have, at least the season, we have Milk, which basically hint that some aspects don't go on until in the next episode, but basically, the matchmaking service from early in the episode, we also, it actually returns, and then basically finds that Ted finds the perfect woman, the perfect one that he's perfectly described, like, who the person is. Because he's like, he's too picky, and then he finds, like, certain aspects and everything about it, so he tries to set up with that perfect person. And then he ends up actually trying to help Lily with a tragedy he's going through, which it turns out she's trying to fight fellowship, and she's just worried about life and just stressing out. And you get some you get some pretty great acting between like Josh Radnor and Allison Hagen in this scene. And seeing one like why Lily's feeling this, I don't think it was hinted at, but it definitely is still a lot of emotions going through. It comes through the great acting. I want you to get some great humorous moments, especially her saying mistake a lot. Like, I know it's big, but sometimes you gotta make that mistake and everything. And you get some nice back between Robin and Ted's like, I gotta go, Robin. And Marge's like, no, why? You know this is a mistake. Why you? And all that stuff. But yeah, another pretty good episode. So yeah, we get to come on this season finale, when instead of having a girl that's literally perfect for Ted, he decides to go after Robin. Tries to go for numerous and a crazy amount of attempts to try to impress her. Everything going through a rain dance to impress her and everything, and somehow it works by the end of the season. You know, in reality, considering that Robin's not her mom, not the actual mother, we kind of know it's just not gonna work out. So yeah, we'll get to that. And we get some pretty emotional moments in this episode, but basically we get some backwards emotional way about the fellowship thing and the reasons for everything. We get this little fun moments where they actually pause, like during a fight, or unpause, which is something they do a couple times throughout the series, which they follow a quirk in their relationship. And it ends with Lily actually leaving Marshall. Like the scene of Marshall in the case with the ring and everything, and the ring, like it's hard not to get at least a little choked up at that moment. So yeah, it's definitely going high up just from being a very emotional episode, but we'll still have the great humorous moments as well. Well, that's it in season 1 of How I Met Your Mother. I talked about all 22 episodes. I will put the ranking up here if you guys want to know like how I would rank every episode of this season, honestly. And overall, I thought this was actually a pretty good season, actually. Well, I don't think, aside from the matchmaking episode, I don't think there really are Trinity duds in this season. Like, you can tell they're still trying to figure things out, but that's kind of normal for a first season to come. I know some people like spend like, there's never a good first season of a show, which is kind of strange. But it's always a good season. I mean, again, they're still figuring themselves out with the characters. Maybe a couple things have not aged the best. Again, you can tell they're trying to, and this show basically came out like a year after Friends, and you can tell it kind of feels like a Friends ripoff. And I don't think the show would really get a stride until next season, which I'm definitely excited for season 2. But overall, I still do enjoy this season. There's still some good episodes, some good job developing the characters, whether they do like good decisions or bad decisions. And there's a nice heart and emotions actually throughout the season. Again, and also the actors really do an excellent job. I don't think I said that throughout these episodes, but the actors do really great here. Like, the reason why it's kind of so, like, what can make a sitcom so great is always the characters and also the performances that play them. That's why maybe some comes up below. Basically the reason why the characters in Friends are beloved, by instead of them doing terrible things, it's because the actors that play them, that they do a pretty good job with their quirks and their humor and their all the emotions they have been going through. Like, those actors really behind those characters. And you can say the same thing with How I Met Your Mother, honestly. Especially Neil Patrick Harris plays Barney, who at first we feel like he's a little one note, but throughout the season and the rest of the series, you know, like little details about his character. And knowing in the end he does have a heart, he does care about his friends. And he does go for one of the most compelling arcs in any sitcom out there. But yeah, we'll definitely talk about more of that when we get to the season. And I still have 8 seasons to talk about, so strap in. But hope you guys enjoyed the ranking so far.